G'day, Hugh here from vrdesign.com.au, a design company based on the Gold Coast in Australia, and thank you for joining me. A little while ago I presented a tutorial on sky replacement using Luminar 2018. Now it's been mentioned that using the Luminosity Masks you can copy the mask in Luminar 2018 to save a lot of time in sky replacement. Unfortunately on Windows, Luminar 2018 doesn't support the copying of masks. So to be able to do it through Luminosity, you do have to follow a few extra steps. It's possible, it's not easy, but it is possible. So let's get into Luminar 2018 and I'll show you a few tricks on how you can do that.
So this is a photo of the oldest hotel in Belgrade, Serbia. Now I took this early in the morning. It was very early in the morning actually, and waiting for the sun to come up, but it was going to come up behind this building here. But with the cloud it never really lit up the sky. It just stayed sort of looking like this and slowly got brighter and grayer, and it wasn't really a very interesting photo. It's very underexposed, but with a bit of work we can do something with it. So what we want to do is replace the sky. Now we also want to improve the actual photo itself, but give the sky a bit more interest. Now the thought was, well, you can only do that using Luminar 2018 with the multiply blending mode on blown out and white skies. Well, there's workarounds that we can use. We don't have the access to copying masks like you do when you're using Mac. So what we'll do is a few little adjustments. But to begin with, we'll work on the original photo by coming to Raw Develop. What we'll just do is we'll bring down the highlights and open up the shadows. Now in this case we might not worry about the highlights because we want the sky to be blown out, so we'll bring them back the other way and just add a little bit of white, a little bit of clarity, a little bit of exposure, a little bit of contrast, and a bit of clarity. Now that's already whitened up the sky a fair bit, but it also has created a little bit of a issue with the sign up here. Now what we'll do is we'll come to transform and we'll just straighten this whole thing up because it is very warped at the moment. And we'll use the Y offset to bring the building back down. Just bring it up a little bit, so back down to about there, and that's a pretty decent. So we'll just move the X offset to give us the right hand side of the photo a bit of room, and I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so that's the initial adjustments, and we're just done the Raw Develop. So now that we've hidden the filters, we can see that it needs to be cropped. So I'll bring the crop into about there, and I'm going to leave that there for the time being. So that's our crop. Now we still want to whiten out this sky a lot more, but we want to keep this sort of as is, that sign there, because it is also quite bright, and obviously we want the rest of the picture to look fairly as is at the moment. So what we can do is we can add a new adjustment layer, and with that we can click on the brush and say new Luminosity Mask, and it will create a mask for us. And what we will do is we'll create the mask for just the sky, keeping the rest of the image as is, and create a much more whiter sky. So to do that, we go add filters, and we'll do two things: add a black and white conversion, and bring the reds down, the whites down, the greens down, cyan and blue up, magenta down, bring up the highlights, bring down the shadows, and bring up the whites, and bring down the blacks to a degree. Now you can see the sky is very white now, but the sun here has really disappeared. Now it's obviously impacting the rest of our photo as well. So if we close off our filters there, we can get a better picture here and get an idea of what is going on. So what we want to do is we want to click on the brush and then the brush tool, and we're going to erase this mask. So because this is on at the moment, it's showing us red where the mask is, and that's that little eye there. So by keeping that on, we can then work on the image that we want to bring back by erasing the mask from different parts of the image. And so we really just want the sky in its main area to be masked, but we want to remove it from around our main objects here. Now what we can do is come back to paint and bring the opacity down and just subtly bring it back in, so it's not drastically cutting off, because we do know that the extremities will be darker than the actual other areas. So that's adding the first mask to really whiten out the sky, but keep our main picture the same. Now we can see there's a little bit of red still showing in different spots, so we just continually run the brush over that to remove it, and then we're done. So we click on done. You can see it's a little darker in areas closer to the buildings, but it's neither here nor there. Now our next job here is to add a picture layer, or a new image layer, and that's where we're going to add the sky, the new sky. So just before we do that, we can look at the before and after. So it was a very blue sky, it's now a very white sky. Now one thing that's worrying me a little is that we have got this sort of disappearing into the white sky. So what we may do here is go add a new adjustment layer, having clicked on the original layer, which won't affect our mask here at all. Go add filter, dodge and burn, start painting, and we want it to darken, and it's just that area there. And we'll darken these things up a little bit, but that's the compromise. So we can say done to that and get back to our new white sky layer. You can see it's a little darker just around that area there. So we'll go add new image layer, choose our sky overlays. Now we want something that's going to be quite interesting, but not too dark. But it's got to be something that's a lot more towards the top end of it. So something say like that. And that will add this layer on top of our image. Now it's fairly subtle and it's not particularly dramatic, but we can make it work in our favor. So now we've got that on top, we want to change the sky layer to multiply, and now we have a sky in our background. But you can see it's infringing on our photo. So a bit like before, we have to mask out the bits that we don't want showing up. Now we can just paint it all out, or we do have other options. So rather than painting it out to begin with, we can try a gradient, and we'll just undo the mask there, and we'll try putting the gradient somewhere like so. And bring it down, and that really just brings it in nicely. I like that, so we can say done to that. Now we can come back up to our paintbrush here and select the eye and see where it's really affecting our image. So we want to remove that, so we just need to come back up here with our brush and remove it from affecting our particular image. Now it's not too difficult to agree that this does look quite different to where we began, but we can do a bit more work on, make it look even better. So we've got a few options there, so we'll say done to that. Now look at our new sky already. In fact, it almost looks like a different time of day, but we still have got these beautiful stars coming from our bright lights, which can only be achieved in longer exposures when there's less light, but it does look like it is the day. So it's quite a different look. So what I'll do now is just do a little bit of work on this sky layer, and we can add filters to it and just do a little bit of develop on it. Bring the exposure down a little and the contrast up, and change the color balance slightly, a little bit of blue and just a little bit of magenta, and then we can just do a bit of brilliance and warmth, which really gives you a blue sky look. So I'm quite happy with that as far as our sky goes. Now what we want to do is do a bit more work on our actual image, but we don't want to affect the sky at this stage. So we need to click underneath the sky layer on our other layer that we're going to be working on. It switches off the sky layer, but once we click back on it, it will bring it back in, but we'll leave it out for now. Okay, so we want to add some filters to our image, but we want to actually do that through adjustment layers. So we need to add a new adjustment layer and add a filter. Start with the AI filter, which always gives us a starting point, gives a bit of a color tonal boost, and also with this adjustment layer I will do a little bit of golden hour, which we want to add in just to really impact the image a little, and also a little bit of foliage enhancer to just bring out the green in the trees and in the building a little, and on the staircase there. So that's adjustment layer 1 before, after. So subtle, but it's all working on it. So we'll now add a new adjustment layer, bring back in a little bit more clarity and denoise to reduce the noise, because we had to increase the exposure a fair bit in the photo. We need to bring down that noise. Okay, so what other things would we like to do? So we've definitely increased the visibility of the photo from a very dark photo to something with a bit more life about it, but we'll do a couple more adjustments. We'll do some dodging and burning. So dodge and burn, start painting, and what I want to do is start to just burn in a couple of areas to just create a little bit of contrast. Now that didn't work on the building, so we'll take that off and just take that off there, and we will darken just some of this. What we'll do is we'll darken it, but make the strength much less. So that just gives us a bit more of a contrast, but only in selected areas. but not too strong. So we can say done to that. Okay, so what else would we like to do with this image? Well, you know, for a starting point, I'm quite happy with the way it's now looking. Put the sky back in, and that's when we want to actually now do a little bit more work overall. So it is, you can see, really darkening our main image to a degree. So we need to brush that out again. Well, we did to a degree, but we didn't completely. So we want to bring the opacity up a fair bit on the eraser now, and just really focus in on getting rid of the red mask from the gradient filter that we've done. And it doesn't need to be, you know, specific. We can just really apply it as a general mask. Now if we switch that off. So to get rid of this glow, we need to paint back in, but at a much softer opacity, a bit more than 16, but just enough to make it looking like it's glow back in. And we can get around the edge of the tree there and the edge of the building. Now if I really wanted to, I could zoom right in and brighten up the areas there, but we can read that, and it looks pretty good. So just a little bit of last brushing around. So how are we looking? We can say done to that. That's our original photo, and that's where we're looking at now. I could put a vignette on this, or I could not. I could work on these areas too. Now that's actually quite time consuming, but it is worth doing using the new tool here, clone and stamp. I'll just show you this corner, but as I said, it does take quite a bit of work. Not so much the actual cloning and stamping itself, but it just uses a lot of processor power. But it will create a new clone and stamp layer. If you have a look here, it will say it's preparing. So we'll let it prepare, and then it says click to set the source. Okay, and once it's ready to go, much like Photoshop, you can hold the Alt key down and select where you're wanting to source your clone from, and click, and then just paint in. So you can see there how it's cloned that to there. So obviously you don't want that repeating it like that. So we can just keep clicking and alt clicking and using the mouse to create a similar look. And then it requires a fair bit of working over. It's not the easiest of systems, and this is probably a lot easier on Photoshop at the moment, but I'm sure as time goes by it will be refined, and hopefully we'll also get access to some content aware field. But I have a feeling that Photoshop really has the monopoly on that, so it might not happen anytime soon. The technology behind it, the intellectual property, I mean, it is amazing what you can do in Photoshop, and so it's understandable that new programs wouldn't be able to emulate that to the same level. But I know with Snapseed and that sort of stuff, you can sort of do this with a pretty basic swipe of the finger. So it's all possible, but yeah, it takes a bit of work to fill it in so it looks at least semi-natural. I wouldn't say it's one of my stronger points, but you know, we do what we can. But yeah, just play around with that to get it looking a little bit more filled in. But yeah, you just got to really work on getting that to sort of look okay. But we've filled in a gap there. I mean, at 100%, which is what we are. You wouldn't want to, you wouldn't want to print that. If it was an image worth printing, I'd be taking it into Photoshop and really fixing it up there. But you can see we've filled in a bit of that cropping gap. I mean, that's the other option, is you just crop it out, and you know, you've got a car there at the edge of the building. But it's nice to have your frame looking the way you'd like it to. Now you can see there's a fair bit of noise still in this because it was such a low exposure when it was taken, but it was, you know, at least it has at least improved in the look. Now you can see down in the corner there, probably do a little bit work on that very bottom corner, but we've removed this triangle of grey that was down here. Now you can switch off the clone. You can see just with a few basic brush strokes we've really just removed it, but it would be worth spending a fair bit of time trying to fix that up completely. Now what else could we do? Well, I mean, what we can do now is add a new adjustment layer on top of the whole, which will impact the entire picture. Now, I know when I first started using Luminar, I really did enjoy the sun rays. I think there's go out of fashion pretty quick though. But you never know; they could always work, couldn't they? But the thing is, this photo really doesn't need a sun anywhere in it. You know, because it's really it's not about being a sunny picture. So I can try it, but I don't think I'll like it. But let's just warm it up and bring the amount down and the look down, and randomize it a bit. I think, yeah, and then bring the filter right down. But yeah, you know, I liked it when I first got to play with it, but maybe using it for mainly just landscape photos at this stage, sunrise, sunset perhaps. But I don't think we really do need this. It's almost like lens flare. It's a little bit over the top, and yeah, I don't know. I don't think we need that. So we'll just come up to here and delete the layer, and then we'll just add a new adjustment layer, and we'll just do one or two quick finishes. Now I think it's all a bit blue, so we will color balance, color temperature. We'll actually warm it up rather than color balance. Like so. We'll get the brush and we'll paint it just into our buildings, so they're no longer just really blue look. Might increase the opacity level just a bit on the main building, like so. And we say done to that. So you can see how blue it was, and that gives us a bit more of a natural look. So we're looking at a photo that started off looking like this and is now looking like this. So what else? Well, I think you know, it's still on a bit of an angle, so we'll come down to the very bottom, transform and rotate just a slight amount in that direction. I mean, I think I was on a hill, I don't really remember. Seemed to be reasonably flat, but the photo definitely is slanted a bit. So that's all done with a fairly plain sky, plain background, underexposed photo using Luminar 2018. We have effectively rescued this photo from disaster to something that looks not too bad. We've added an interesting sky, got decent enough exposure and contrast. Yeah, it's an interesting process. This probably could look a lot different, and I wouldn't mind, you know, if I wanted this tutorial to go even a lot longer, work on this sign and bringing it out, because you can see how well it looks there. And that wouldn't be too difficult to do with darkening these sort of sky background behind it, and sort of you know, playing around with the graduated filter that we put in. But I still, you know, I'm still quite happy with the way the hotel, the oldest hotel in Serbia, now looks in this photo. And fix up this corner, put a vignette on it, and I'd be done. So if you've got Windows and you're using Luminar 2018, you can't copy masks in layers, but you can at least do a bit of work with skies and end up with something that you can be at least half happy with. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and stay tuned. Till next time, I'll see you later.